The question offered to us, why do certain people sweat more than others? A great question. I think many people would like to know the answer to. So great job, you, for asking us that. We never say who it was, right? That's not important. Happy wendwellness. So why do we sweat in the first place? Well, we sweat to release heat, right? Our blood vessels, they dilate or open up wider, and they get closer to the skin, and they release heat through the skin. And when we release that heat and we lose some water, we lose electrolytes like sodium chloride or potassium or magnesium or trace amounts of phosphorus, for example. And what happens is when the sweat evaporates, it cools the skin, right? So this is our body's mechanism, at least one, of releasing heat, right? Major one. So why do we sweat more? Certain people. Well, body mass. The larger you are, the more mass you have to move, and hence the more heat you generate, hence the more heat you have to release, right? So take somebody who is, has more muscle mass, right? Now somebody with more muscle mass has a higher resting metabolic rate, and so they produce a lot more heat than somebody who's just fat, say, right? But if somebody who were fat tried to do the same activity as somebody who was very fit, well, even though people who are very fit typically, they sweat more, that fat person would actually sweat more in that case because they have to expend more energy to achieve the same task. And so it's about energy expenditure, right? Whether it's because of greater muscle mass, and like we say, that resting metabolic rate is higher, whether it's because you just have to move more mass in general, right? Or another interesting factor is age. So as we age, our sweat glands shrink and they become less sensitive, especially those in the armpits. So there's some hope for you guys who sweat through your shirt all the time and you're young. You're about to get older and do it a little bit less, at least on average, right? And so we typically sweat less as we age, right? Now, there could be other contributing factors. Caffeine intake would be one. Having spicy foods would be another. And having stress and anxiety could be another one, right? Sometimes people sweat really for no reason, and then we have people sweating because there's underlying disease going on or hormonal issues, right? Things from tuberculosis, caused by Mycobacterium tuberculosis, right? It's a bacterial thing, typically lung infection. That's how it's spread, typically. And you get the muscle weakness, you get the night sweats, you get all this stuff, right? We don't really need to get into it. You get cold abscesses in the spine, but something like that could cause somebody to sweat more. It could just be a fever. It could be an infection, right? It could be leukemia. It could be lymphoma. It could be acromegaly. That's where your body produces excessive amounts of growth hormone, and your head and your hands and your feet, they grow a little bit more than they should, right? Look really abnormal. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. We'll get to you in a minute. If you have any questions, post them. We'll do a video on it. Love you too, Danny. I think I see you, man. It could be things like that. Hyperthyroidism would be another thing that could cause you to sweat a lot more. And really the big take home here is it is a simple message, is if you're working out for an hour, you should typically replenish with about 16 to 20 ounces of fluid, right, for every hour of exercise. Now, if you're exercising for more than an hour, typically you would want electrolytes on top, right? You take something like that Noon, and you enter any electrolyte tablet out there. Noon is the one I use, really low in sugar, and it has that potassium and calcium and magnesium and phosphorus and sodium and whatnot, right? And that comes with, obviously, the major caveat that if somebody were to work out for 10 minutes and go absolutely nuts, well, they'd be losing a lot more water than somebody who worked out for 10 minutes at some low pace. And so you can't kind of standardize it by the time, but on average, that's what it tends to be, and that's why I say that. Right? So those are a few reasons that certain people sweat more than others. And as a quick summary, again, if you're late to the party, if you have greater body mass, if you have more muscle mass, if you are more fit, if you have some underlying pathology, you may sweat more if you have a lot of caffeine or spicy foods, or you're stressed or anxious all the time. If somebody is in the geriatric population, then they're likely to sweat less because our sweat glands shrink and become less sensitive as we age. So that's what we got for you guys today. I hope it was useful to somebody. It was a question, so when we get these requests, we do like to meet them. Hope it was helpful. You know who you are. And we told you we were doing the video, so bada bing, bada boom. Let's see who we got on here. Fact or myth? Should one drink half their body weight in water per day? Yes, at a minimum, typically. Half your body weight in ounces. What up, Ken? I was just chilling with at your pops' house. Ingram, how you doing? Mac Ballot, what's happening? Annie Bausorman, what's going on? D Dubnock, what's happening? Bruno and the Weems. Jazzy Kenny. Danny Saltis, my man. Absolutely shout you out. You're a beast. Love you, man. Demelculo. Jay Navarro, how are you, my friend? Meggie Bex, what up, Meg? Hope you guys are having a great Friday night. I'm really tired from a long week of work. I'm going to go to bed for my Friday night. Sexy Cat Romero, sexy as hell out there. I assume. Unless that's false advertisement. Travis Raw, how you doing? Broken Youth 5. Symphony Samuel. Can we see sweating Oscar Monroy? Okay. Dapper Dalal. Salgadam. Jojo Deer, Holly Dresser, Nadex, Brandon Malone. Paul 83. Daniel Herrera, 8049. Lopez, 57. Hotson's 89. Master Malcolm, first one on here. What's up, stud? Let's see who else we got. We said Natty. What's up? I'll see you in a minute. Bibadal. And M. Vida. You guys have a fantastic rest of your night. That was a simple message of the day. Again, it was per request. So if you have any requests, you can message me. We get a ton of messages, though. I would say your best bet is, and there's a decent list here of requests, and we mix the videos in where we do our own thing, maybe every other day, or and every now and then we throw in a request. But sometimes I'm reading an article I think super interesting, and I think it's worth talking about. Other times I think Wow, Jazz Kenny, I could do a whole video on that. That's a good question. But the point there was, we try to meet all these requests, right, and give you guys the information you're looking for, especially if you're someone who engages in these videos all the time. So, we encourage feedback and questions. Jennar Alvarez, what's up? What tips? This is the question from Jazz Kenny. What tips do you have for those who don't eat meat but need protein intake? The first thing I'll say is, one, I will absolutely do a video on that. I might even do that tomorrow because that's an amazing topic. In short, plants don't have quite the same amino acid profiles. They are not as robust as those, which are the building blocks of proteins, right? Amino acids, as we find in meat, right? And so I don't recommend anybody to have no meat. Now, if it's for ethical purposes and, you just love plants or whatever, you really set on being a vegetarian, you do you. Again, I think you should have some meat, but, you look to things like legumes and, dairy and yogurt. And if you're somebody that doesn't have any animal products, so that makes it really hard. But but eggs are really great, right? If you don't like meat, stuff like that. But I'll do a whole day on that. I think that's really good. Now, why do I say, you should have some meat? Aside from them being full of vitamins and things like that, carnitine and creatine, and, carnitine's a fat shuttle and creatine's an energy thing, right? Beta-alanine, right, reduces acidity in the muscles and improves exercise performance. Beta-alanine combines with the amino acid histidine to form carnosine. Again, it acts as an acid buffer. These are things we typically find in fish and meat, things like that. So I personally wouldn't skip them. But, obviously fruits and vegetables offer tons of benefits. We talk about them all the time, from polyphenols to flavanols and, for mood and memory and coordination, according to Harvard Medical School. We were saying that yesterday. You find those in berries. For example, nitrates that we find in greens improve blood flow. We get tons of vitamins, the vitamin K, and, all sorts of good stuff, right? But, tell me this, my friend Jazz Kenny, how many legumes do you think you would need to eat to get the same amount of protein as, a pound of beef or a half pound or whatever? Say a serving of each, what are you going to get? Right, so before you even answer, I think, this raises the issue of having tons of calories to meet the same protein intake as somebody who would have meat could have much less, right? And get that protein. So I think it makes it difficult. Can you do it? Yes. We'll talk about how in the coming days. Great question. I hope that was helpful. Gary Morris, Mike CVOS, Sprofit, how you doing? JBW, Whale Elshar, Johnny C Fitness. Yeah, Jazz Kenny, you got it. I'll even send you a message the day that we're going to do it. How about that? All right, that's what we do typically. Okay, Marcus Rose Fashion, what's going on, my man? How you doing? Have a fantastic rest of your night. We'll see you tomorrow, folks. Happy wellness. Thank you. Thanks, Jazz Kenny, for that great question.